This is the plaintiff, Harry Rosenberg. He says he brought his dog Lily to the defendant for boarding while he was away on vacation. And when he got Lily back, she was limping horribly. The dog's leg was severely dislocated during the defendant's inferior, careless care. He had to pay for surgery on his beloved dog, and the defendant claims she has no idea what happened. He's suing for $5,000 for vet bills, lost wages, lost time, and pain and suffering. This is the defendant, Lynn. She says she owns a pet resort for the past 10 years, and she knows how to care for animals. The plaintiff's dog is 84 years old in dog years. She has arthritis, and it turns out the old dog has a hip displacement. The plaintiff's trying to get her to pay for his old dog's vet bill. It's like with old people. The dog has arthritis. There is no trauma. And she can't believe this guy's actually suing her for $5,000 when she did nothing wrong. She's accused of being doggone careless.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff took his dog Lily to the defendant's boarding facility. When the dog came back, it had a dislocated leg. But the defendant says the plaintiff's dog is 84 in dog years with arthritis. It's the case of wilting Lily.
Thank you, Doug. You didn't bring me the dog?
Yeah,
No.
I wanted
okay.
to.
Okay. Harry Rosenberg, you are suing Lynn. You've asked us to refer to you only by your first name and to not mention your pet resort. Okay. But you're suing her pet resort, represented here by Lynn, the owner, for $5,000, most of it for vet bills and pain medication, and the rest of it for pain and suffering. All right, tell me what happened.
Okay, we decided to go visit my stepson and daughter-in-law out in Utah this past December during our winter break. We had gotten our dog groomed over at her kennel, so we had inquired about keeping our dog there while we were away on vacation. And she's
Is that
never...
the first time you'd done that?
Yes, we had never
And the
put her
dog
in a
is how
kennel.
old?
She's 12. Basically, we had gotten her examined back at the end of November. And then before we went away, we left for Utah on December 24th. And the day before, Lynn here, she told me that she needed proof of our vaccinations. So I brought my dog Lily over to the vet, and I actually had her call to talk about exactly what she needed. I had the vet call her. Lily has had problems in the past, but she was healthy. Well, she had a couple of surgeries on her bladder, and she had knee surgery. But this is when she was 3 years old, and she's perfectly healthy ever since. And we had her examined before we put her in there on December 23rd. I brought her over, and she called there, and she took a look at Lily, and she said everything's good. And we placed her in for her care over at the kennel.
Okay.
I called on December 29th because I had finally thought about my dog to see how she was doing, and I called over there to find out how she was, and they told me she was good. So we didn't assume anything else, and we completed our vacation and got back on January 4th. So I decided to pick her up the next day on the 5th.
You pick her up, and what do you notice?
What happened then, one of the girl workers there brought Lily out. She placed her on the floor.
Okay.
And let her walk a couple steps. I did notice a slight limp. She lifted her up and said, "Here," and gave her to me to hold. And I said, "How come she's limping?" And they said, "Well, she's an old dog, and it's an old lady limp." And I said, "Well..."
So you said, "How come she's limping?"
Yes. I asked her,
she
"Why is
said,
she limping?"
Yeah, but you know your dog better than she does.
Yes.
So how come she's limping? Well, it's an old lady limp.
That's what she told me. I didn't really think that much about it. We had just come off a 10-day vacation. I was tired.
And who said to you, well, it's an old lady limp? The defendant?
The defendant, yes.
Okay. And then what happens?
And it might have been the other worker. I don't remember exactly
this is
whether it was her.
important. This is
but
very
I believe the
important.
owner did tell me it was
Okay.
an old lady limp.
Okay.
Okay? So I took her home, I put her in the car, and I put her on the seat next to me. I noticed her leg was up in the air, and she was barely touching it with the car seat.
So did
Okay,
you drive
so I
back?
sat her down. No, I took her home, brought her in the house, and then I saw that she couldn't even walk. And I laid her down and I called my vet. The vet said to bring her in, and I didn't bring her. I either brought her in the same day or the next morning. And when I got there, she said, well, we need to give her an x-ray and see what's wrong. I do have a picture of the x-ray, and it shows that she has a dislocated hip.
I'd like to see a picture of the x-ray, and I'd like to see a picture of Lily if you have it.
Okay, come on up.
You go,
here.
come on up. You can come up.
Okay.
Oy, poor dog.
The hip got dislocated while she was under their care. And
How do you know? Your doctor says that.
My dog couldn't walk.
Well, if your dog couldn't walk, why'd you leave with the dog? That's what I don't get because.
What would I do with her there?
Well,
there's
you would.
There's no vet there.
I would take her straight to the vet and not home if there was, because you said.
Well, I either took her to.
Wait, let
all
me
right.
talk.
Okay.
My concern is you use the phrase, I thought nothing of it. Why would you think nothing of it? If it was that obvious, why would you bring the dog home instead of to a vet? Why wouldn't you say things at that time? Because her defense, I know what her defense is going to be. She hasn't opened her mouth yet, and I know what her defense is going to be. Go ahead. Did anything happen to the dog while in your care?
No, it did
Okay. Were you present when he picked up the dog?
not. No.
Okay. And do you know which employee handed him the dog?
It was, yes, I do.
Okay. And did she mention anything about the dog limping?
Yes.
Okay. So when did she mention that to you?
She mentioned it to me about, it was approximately the day before they were picking her up.
Oh. All right, so talk to me about it. What
during
happened?
her stay, at the very end of her stay, she began limping.
Okay.
It was an intermittent limp. Could be anything from a hangnail to anything. So we were just keeping an eye on it for a day, and that's what we normally do, you know. And then the next day, Mrs. Rosenberg called in.
Wait, but didn't you tell them, hey, your dog is limping?
When they called in, we told them. We didn't call them and tell them that their dog was limping.
Okay, when they called in before picking up the dog?
Yes.
No, we were
No,
not
absolutely
told.
not.
They're very adamant that you guys didn't say
Absolutely,
anything
we
to
did
them
not know
about
our
that.
dog was injured
And
before
then,
we got
and
there.
no, wait, she
No,
didn't
no,
say
no.
your dog was injured. She said your dog was limping.
Well, they
She
didn't tell us
acknowledges
there
that
was-
the dog was limping. All right, so you claim to have said something to them on the phone about the limp.
Yes.
They are adamant that you
It
didn't
was
say anything.
not me. It was
Oh.
Stephanie.
Who's that?
She is an employee that works the front desk.
So you took the dog to the doctor when?
The
next
next day.
day.
Because
The next day after picking her up?
Yes.
All right, and the doctor, did you have?
We
the-
have a
Let me
letter
explain
from the
why
doctor.
we didn't
Let me
go
see.
right away.
Yeah, why didn't you go right away?
She closes early on Wednesdays, and we weren't able to bring her there.
So you bring her
What
in the next day, just a second, right
Right.
rear limping after being released from a boarding facility. She was non-weight bearing on that leg and painful. Radiographic determination revealed a cranial luxation of the right hip. Basically, the hip was out of its socket. This was surgically corrected. When I examined Lily November 6th, she did not exhibit this problem at that time. Nor did she exhibit the problem when Harry and Lily stopped by in December before the trip. I then spoke to the boarding facility's owner, that talked
She
to you?
did, yes.
The boarding facility's owner to determine how long Lily had been limping. She said it had been a couple of days prior to Lily's release, but they thought it was arthritis. The longer the hip is out of its socket, the more difficult it is to physically place back into the socket without surgery. In my professional opinion, it appeared Lily suffered some sort of traumatic injury. Do you folks have people sign waivers?
We usually do, and
You
they
didn't
dropped
in
the
this
ball on this case because
say.
they forgot to have him sign the waiver. And the
I'm
waiver
sure
usually says-
somebody's head rolled.
Yes. It was a conversation.
Dog goes in okay, and the dog comes out with a bum leg. Is the kennel responsible?
Yeah, absolutely. When your dog is at your house and the dog dislocated its leg, you're responsible.
Is that right? Are you buying that?
Yeah, it's under your supervision. I trusted you to go. I chose you out of all the kennels to go and take care of my dog, despite his age.
Real quick, who disagrees? Anybody? Why?
A little bit. I think you have the right to be, I mean, your dog does what your dog does, but you could still be a little mad at the kennel and probably not go back.
Okay, fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
She ended up in surgery on the 12th.
Yes.
How are you
I would-
estimating for dog rehab $1,200?
Well, that's.
This is what the vet
This
gave
is the
us.
estimate.
This document about cold laser therapy was prepared a few days ago. In fact,
Yes,
it was
it
prepared
was.
yesterday.
I asked her to bring up an estimate of how much rehab would cost.
I know, but the surgery was in January, so
Yes,
this
it
cold
was.
laser therapy isn't something you were going to do. It's something that
Well,
you brought up
it was
for court.
recommended. We had never printed it up. She had told us about getting therapy.
Well, she
Okay.
gave us.
What's the pain and suffering? The dog's pain and suffering?
That and our night staying up with her because she was moaning and groaning and very uncomfortable.
She still can't walk right.
And she could
She's
barely,
in
she
a lot
can't
of
walk
pain.
very
Do you have
well.
video of her walking?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have it on my phone. And it's hard for her to get up even one step.
That's walking into
Which
our
leg is it?
apartment.
Which the
It's
back
her right
what?
Back
leg,
right.
her
Back
rear
right?
right.
Yeah, but she used to be able to jump up that step. That was taken this morning when I walked her before we came here.
And that's after 3 months of.
And she could not, she has a lot of difficulty. You see, she has to put her front paws up and then like hoist herself up onto the step. She used to just jump up on that step.
It's a cute dog.
We love our
Yeah,
dog.
she's,
is a cute
definitely, she's
dog.
definitely,
Impaired.
yeah.
Yes. She sounds like she's impaired, and she is
You know,
a
the
cute
vet
dog.
says that it's trauma.
Nothing ever happened.
You
and
don't know
nothing
that. You're not there all the time.
we
You're
have
not even
cameras,
there.
though.
Well, but you're not there all the time. You have other people, other employees who are responsible for not getting a waiver, who are the ones who, according to you, dismissed the dog and had conversation. You were nowhere around. Who are the ones, according so no, you're not there 24/7 with every single one of the dogs. You can't be. It's impossible. So that's why you have, waivers and things like that, so that if it's dog on dog stuff, that it's just one of those things that you take into
Yes,
account
but
when you're in a
there's
kennel.
really, honestly, nothing that we could do there that would cause blunt
There is
force
one thing you
trauma.
could do when you see a dog limping 2 days earlier is have the dog seen by a vet, because it was an assumption that it was old lady whatever, as opposed to checking it out. And when it got checked out, this is what the vet said. It's in black and white from the vet. And I know the vet had told you, no, this is, just a second. Do you hear me talking, or is it just in my mind? Okay. In my professional opinion, it appears she suffered some sort of traumatic injury that dislocated the hip. She's recovering, but I would recommend continued rehabilitation. So it doesn't say if this is old lady, and so you didn't take it to a vet who says, it's old lady limping. The assumption was made, and it turns out that was a dangerous assumption that required surgery, because if the assumption had been made and you had taken her to the vet right away, what would have happened? They pop it back in?
I don't know that. We're not veterinarians. We don't represent ourselves as veterinarians.
Exactly. Thank you. Which is why when you see a dog limping and it's not your dog to make, it'll be fine. It's not your call. Maybe that's when you have a responsibility to make sure you're a vet, because I'm sure you have a vet nearby.
We do.
Very nearby, because that's kind of how these things are set up. And, it's just the right thing. I don't think that you guys are qualified to turn around and say, it's old lady limping, when she didn't walk in old lady limping. And I know she didn't, because not only did they testify she didn't, you testify that she didn't. Nobody noticed this until the end. And the vet says, I saw her the day before she went in and she was fine. So I am going to order, you're asking for many things. You're asking for double the vet bills, essentially, by adding pain and suffering and dog rehab.
And time off from work.
And getting off from work.
Right.
First of all, do you have any proof of wages?
Yes.
Let me see. Okay, you do not get pain and suffering for a dog. You don't.
How about our own pain and suffering?
I know, you don't get that either. So I am going to order that the defendant pay the plaintiffs, certainly the $2,166.10 in vet bills, plus the $79 for the day he had to take off to take the dog there. Can't give you the pain and suffering. And my job is to give you what's medically necessary. And if in several months this hasn't been medically necessary, my job is not to give you a bonanza. So I'm not going to order the rehab. That's my verdict, $245.10. Verdict for the plaintiffs. Good luck, folks.
Well, the plaintiffs recovered just over $2,200. Lynn, the defendant, has come out of the courtroom. I think you learned an expensive lesson today, didn't you?
Yeah, I learned a few things, but I also understand that We love all dogs and all animals, and we try to do the right thing. Nothing did happen to Lily at the kennel. Things do happen to people and animals when they get above a certain age.
Well, something must have happened because
Nothing.
she was limping, which
No,
came
there-
out.
it-
She wasn't limping when
there's
she was there.
Blunt force trauma and there's congenital.
Bottom line is you do have to pay,
Right.
okay? That's the judge's decision. And the point is, if you'd taken the dog to a vet, it may have been a big help and saved you much more money, okay?
Possibly.
Thank you very much. I think she did learn a lesson. Here come the plaintiffs now, Mr. and Ms. Rosenberg. I presume you're okay with this. You didn't get pain and suffering, you know, so you didn't get
Right.
5,000, but
Right.
2,200's
We're happy that our bills were paid.
okay. And the big thing is the dog is doing better?
Yes, and we love her, and she's a very warm and
Of course.
friendly dog.
Oh,
So
well, that's
we're
good.
happy
You're pet
that she
lovers.
got
Good.
well.
Absolutely.
Well, congratulations. Go home and take care of her.
Thank
okay?
you. All righty.
Absolutely, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Give her our regards. Harvey?
Okay, the key here is the defendant should have taken the dog to the vet immediately. By letting it go, the problem exacerbated. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.